So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with our session this afternoon. So try something a little different this go around. First, let me introduce myself in case you don't know me. My name is Maurice Ferrell. I work at the School of Government at UNC, and so I work with Shannon, who we just did the big birthday cake for out in the exhibit. So we're trying something a little different this year as it relates to the sessions on Wednesday. We're calling it Present and Discuss. So I'm actually going to present some slides. I'm not going to do a full-blown presentation, but I'll present some slides. And then it'll be more of a roundtable discussion around how do we create a culture for security. So it'll be me talking a little bit, and hopefully you will doing a lot of talking, so we can kind of talk through how do we create a culture of security within our organization. So I will throw some stuff out there to kind of get you going, prime the pump, if you will, and then we'll kind of get into some discussion as a group. Sounds good? Did you guys enjoy Kevin Nittman? I'm absolutely scared to I don't even want to talk to him. I didn't even go shake his hand or anything. I just looked at him from afar. So I didn't exactly know what kind of device he had on him or just what kind of school. So why do we need security?
Yep, pretty much. We are not good.
Why security?
All right, cool.
Why is it important? Protection?
Data protection. It depends on what kind of security you want. Data protection,
Can you,
protection.
People protection, data protection,
I'm working on the
asset management, all of that, so there's a reason to have security. You just don't go in your home and leave the door open. Even though my grandma would argue with me in that one, because she would say, we used to leave our doors open all the time. I said, yeah, we can't do that right now. I just don't think that works too well. But so security protects things that we have within our house, within our organization, within whatever we're managing. Security protects that. So we start to really look at this, defining security from a technology standpoint. It's the ability to protect information and access to the information. It also helps us to keep and maintain the trust of our citizens, our customers, our stakeholders. And then as we start to think about security, we have to also look at what is the culture within our organization as it relates to security. So when he was, Kevin Mitnick was going through some of those examples, I was like, wow, yeah, it sounds like maybe some people in our organization that would give you that information, that would give you the code to the track phone, that would give you those things without you really having to do a whole lot of digging. It's just Southern hospitality. Oh yeah, sure, this is their number, this is what they're in charge of. Oh, you want that password and user ID? Oh, here it is. Or we put, that's information underneath our keyboard. So those are some of the things that we do, some of the things that our culture allows for, right? You have organizations where people are very friendly, that they will give you information that you don't necessarily solicit because you're in their circle of trust, right? They'll just kind of give you things. I remember going into a city, we were doing a strategic plan. We were walking around, just chit-chatting. So I sit down and talk with the admin person there, and, oh, you from the School of Government? Yes, ma'am. Just chit-chatting. And for some reason, she thought I could fix her computer. That was probably the first mistake. So I haven't touched a computer in a very long time. So I said, yeah, okay. I said, I'll look at it. So then she goes on to give me username, password, not only to her computer, an open desktop, but then into the systems that they were using. I was like, okay. I said, well, maybe we might want to stop right here. I said, you really shouldn't be giving me your password and user ID. But that was what their culture allowed for. So as we start to have this discussion, I want you to start to think about your culture in particular, and what are some of the things that you're doing to try to help create a culture of security. So as we start to think about this, we have an organizational view. When we start thinking about culture, you have people, your employees, your customers, your clients. You have processes, those could be business processes, technology processes, and then you actually have the actual technology piece. I would suggest to you that we probably have a really good handle on the technology piece. We know about boxes that will help us. We know how to configure them and that sort of thing. Probably have less handle on the business process, but we can work through those pieces. But the challenge in all of this is the people. So, how do you control, that's probably a bad word, but I'm going to use it anyway just for the sake of discussion. How do you get a handle on the security impacts of your stakeholders, your customers, your clients, your business partners, and your service providers? What are you doing right now as far as a security perspective? How are you handling these individuals?
Probably most effective.
In some cases, I think that is the case. So if someone like Kevin Mitnick were to walk into your office today, do you feel confident that you would not be violated, breached?
Something that kills me is they've up the security in all our buildings.
Yes.
You can't even get into the administration building, all right? We have to call in, we're going in after hours and stuff.
Yes.
It's like open. But I can call one of the interns up there and say, I'm from IT. Can you give me your username and password? And I'll do something.
Absolutely.
So they don't get it.
Yes. No, they do not. They do not get it. How about other organizations? Do you feel that?
Are we talking as like vendors or people come into the building? Is that what we're talking about?
All of it. Really, we're looking at
They're
this.
escorted. They're escorted. They're not. I would say they would not be left alone in a sensitive, like a server room area by themselves. That sort of thing.
So you have that set up in your organization? Okay.
Well, it is. That's not to say that there always has somebody with them.
Yes.
But it's in theory, it's supposed to be.
So just for example, me and Shannon, we come into organizations, right? You probably wouldn't want to leave us, right, in your server room. You wouldn't want to do that. But there are people that do, because they trust us.
But again, it's that circle of trust thing.
It's a circle of trust, right? So, I guess the point I'm trying to get to is how do we create a culture that understands the circle of trust, but yet still doesn't violate our processes? Because even in the circle, that's where the attacks come from. Generally, could be from the inside. But I could be coming in on even though I'm not covert like that, but I mean, I could be coming in under the guise of, hey, School of Government's here, we just want to see what's going on. And I could be coming in doing some kind of security audit or something like that. Which, again, would be okay, I guess, especially if your processes, allow for me, and the culture allow for me not to get to where I need to get to. But then if it didn't, this might be a good test. It might be something that we might want to start doing from a School of Government perspective, come in and start doing social engineering pen testing. Because usually we'll come in with the trust card. So.
We don't train anybody.
Yes.
There is no training in social engineering.
Yes. Is anyone doing social engineering training?
We do the basics.
The basics.
The basics where we're telling you you don't give out. I mean, we tell you that you recognize the number. You don't give IT your username and password. If I've got to have somebody's username and password, we change it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we do. I said, don't give it to them.
I mean,
I'll tell you what it is when I'm done.
I'd really like to say that works well.
Right.
Considering I spent the better part of 3 weeks in the news. You don't.
And I think problem too is you got so many different generations.
Yes.
And the younger generations they want everything. They don't care.
Yes.
So you say, well, you need to not do this and not do that. They're like, fine.
Yes, absolutely. I'm experiencing that myself right now. My 2 oldest, they're 12 years old. And so my son does not have a phone, thank God. But my daughter has a phone. She's a little bit more responsible. My son is just completely out there. He's like, yeah, man, just take the picture and just put it up in the internet. I'm like, no, we don't do that. But that whole culture, that whole group of, that age group, they're quick to take a picture or video and post it up somewhere like very quickly. For them, everything is trusted. The internet is a trusted place, which is kind of scary to some degree because of some of the stuff that they post on social media sites and internet and all
They
that.
don't have credit score. It's part of it. They're remote.
Well, and not just that, but like you said, we teach the basics. So we have a new user orientation class,
Okay.
and we tell them, why their passwords change every 30 days, and not to tell anybody, even their manager. I give examples.
Yes.
We tell them, what emails to watch out for, because everybody knows don't open attachments from somebody you don't know, but not everybody knows don't open up URLs. Even people who do know sometimes. The difference is, and it's kind of like the generational presentation we had in CGCO, is the younger folks that you guys are talking about don't want to listen, and sometimes the older generations didn't listen either. Might be for different reasons.
Absolutely. They didn't listen.
They didn't listen because they didn't understand.
Yes.
Sometimes. My mom.
Yeah.
My mom clicked everything.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, I grew up old school, been doing it. You didn't even put your name and your email address, anything. And now for our work, it's first initial, last name, that's your email address. Facebook, you can't have a fake name. They will close your account until you send a picture of your ID, and you have to use your real name. And it's all being put out there, whether you like it or not, or you just don't join it.
You just don't join. Absolutely. So I think it's a really interesting place. Because what I'm seeing is that more and more people want to share information, and then we have organizations that are saying, no, we don't need to share all of that. We need to sort of condense it all. And judging from this presentation that I just was a part of, I wouldn't give him anything.
Right, good. We were sitting up front, we were getting scared.
Yeah. We just took a picture with him, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't be this close to this guy. I just don't, this is very interesting.
He's not using your picture on the payback.
Yeah, and the guy from DPI that gave him his badge, I thought he was really brave to go do that. Yeah. I was just like, no, I would not do that. So,
Well, like he was, he said, if you disconnect from my phone that I'm using, everybody's got their things that automatically connect.
Yeah.
That's where we live.
just automatically, you just walk in, you want to get to some
I
Wi-Fi.
want to get off my data plan.
Yes.
I want to get on the Wi-Fi.
I want to go to Wi-Fi.
Automatic connect, the first one there was none, the only one that wasn't locked down was his.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You search for those
I don't
things.
understand a lot of thought. I was just in Chicago Midway Airport 2 weeks ago, and I looked and there's Midway _ Wi-Fi, and it's open. And my first thought is, that's probably a Hong Kong.
Mhm.
I'm not going to connect to an open wireless and public
Right,
spot.
most people are.
You're technology savvy. My son's gonna see that. He's going right in.
Free internet.
Yeah. My wife's gonna see that. Oh, free Wi-Fi. And then something will pop up on the screen. Oh, so I need to do an update. And then there you go. And there you go.
See, but before technology, like when I was in the military,
Yes.
we had our social security number was our serial number.
Yes.
We used it everywhere. You went into the bank and you have to ask you a question, you gave them your number. So that's why your parents are like that. That's the culture they came out of. They're not used to this either. We got consistent people in between didn't know the difference,
And so now all of these people are in our organization. So the question is, how do we create this culture where we can have a culture of security, where people are actually thinking about security? Almost like when you go in, I'm sure every organization has their own culture. So how do we make security to be a part of that culture? To where your city manager or your superintendent or whoever you work for is actually mentioning security in their conversations. Because that does, at the end of the day, if you get breached, guess who ends up on the front of the paper? Town manager, city manager, Rick. End up in front of the paper, then they want to know, why haven't we done X, Y, and Z from a technology perspective? And usually, it has nothing to do with the technology. It's usually a social engineering that is taking place.
It's almost like you got to bring in a Kevin and scare him. Like, even that room full of IT individuals, I mean, you walk away and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Tighten down. And, because even though we were hired to do what we're hired to do, you still have to, for whatever reason, local government, I don't know if they're outside the norm on this, you still got to bring in consultants
Yes.
to convince upper management, this is why you're pushing X, Y, and Z. So you almost have to bring in someone like that and then give those examples or do it like yourself. So basically the government can come in and, covertly do a social engineering pen test, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
and then share the results with the upper management and say, okay, this is what we found.
Yes.
And now these are the steps we can take to
See, it
resolve it.
would be much easier for you guys to sell it versus, we have to sell it. Let's go to government, I'm all for, once you go to all these places to sell it, tell them that you want to come in, that you want to check or something. You're doing a great service.
Did I just talk myself into some work?
Yes, I
Do we have a sign-up sheet in the back?
Well, I do think pen testing or those kinds of tests will help raise the awareness piece, and this is kind of getting into more of the how do we create a culture within our organization. Any of you guys doing pen testing right now?
I mean,
Mike, sort of.
We don't do it all the time, and we have it every so often.
So when you guys do the pen testing, does that raise awareness to the point where you think you can move security forward? Or does it just kind of go back to normal?
We didn't have any major gaps
Okay.
see, we didn't have,
then,
Yeah.
but it's all, it's
our issue
Right.
is a moving target, and the bigger issue that bit me in the rear end is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. When I was joking, I spent about a month in the media because of the data breach. And it was because we had somebody that went into a secure file room scanning records with a laptop and a scanner and a portable hard drive. And they dropped, our assumption is they dropped the portable hard drive into a shred bag. Shred bags get picked up nightly. They came in the next day, USB drive wasn't there. I can't guarantee where the dang thing was. So that's, I was notifying everybody whose record we could scan because I didn't know when the last time the drive was wiped either. So
There you go.
long time spent on the phone with quite a few individuals.
And it's a pleasant experience, isn't it?
Not so much.
So what happens when you are breached?
Contact your attorney is the first thing.
Contact your attorney.
Our police department, we have policy, police department, PIO, county manager, office, they're all contacted. Everything's law-based. There's a whole bunch of other steps that happen.
Painful, right? So one of the reasons why we do want to try to create a culture of security is to try to prevent that protocol from being implemented, because it's a very painful process. At UNC, we experienced the same thing, and I'll talk a little more about that later on. The other part of this that security impacts are our processes, our workflow, business continuity, our work practices, and then do we have accessibility issues? How are people accessing the information? Do we have securities that are solid around accessibility to different systems? So do I worry about, if we go back to the people, do I worry about the person giving access to some system? Or do I feel comfortable that no one's going to give me the username and password to something? Probably not. You guys are looking at that. I don't feel good about that at all. Maybe some do.
It frustrates me in that part, what we're going through. You got all these people that go, want to talk about security.
Right.
And they're implementing it, and then we're involved, we get involved, and then we're supposed to, if we come up with some kind of security issue, sorry, you purchased the product, this is our agenda. Sorry. I'm like, no.
Yes.
I mean,
And this is when security is not a part of the culture. You just buy stuff, you know, security becomes
The reason is
the
that
thought
sometimes
when you
my
get
plans change,
breached.
right? Where like I tried to take it.
It's the afterthought, it's never the forethought, it's the afterthought. And that's how most of our cultures are. It is the afterthought and not the forethought. I'm not thinking about access to the system, I'm not thinking about if I need admin rights to the desktop or not, or whatever the case is. I don't think about any of that stuff until after I've got it. And I've spent all this money, and so now I need IT to give me pretty much, you know, full access to everything for it to work. But I didn't think about it in the beginning. It's kind of afterthought. Then IT saying no, then you get this back and forth, and then usually someone in the management office gets involved, and then next thing you know, they have access to everything they need to have access to. Because they spent all this money, or it's a grant, or whatever the case is.
See, we used to have a level of control. 10 years ago, we had a level of control. Now we have no control. I mean, commissioners say they need iPads, they buy iPads, they go to Dropbox, and they tell us after they do it, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it is. We don't have any control.
You guys must really love when you find out a new service has been opened on your network that you knew nothing about.
Well, you asked how to change the culture. Like, you said you have a procedure in place. Call the police, call the town manager, call PIO. What do they do when you call?
well, I mean, that's, like I said, there's a whole process, there's a whole step-by-step process.
And they know that process.
The people that are contacting know that process. The culture is, you know, needs to be reinforced. That's what we're not doing. You know, we have this policy, but these people read it. We require them to sign it when they get hired. After 15 years.
What about like periodic training? Like if the people that are responsible, once they get that phone call, understand the steps, and they're like, well, why do I have to do that? And then you can elaborate why you have to do that, because this wasn't done. And once you get the town manager saying, I have to do all this, I get up in the news because this wasn't done, well, then you can talk about doing that, and that might be a purchase.
Right.
I don't know how that would work. It doesn't work for me.
Sounds good, right?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Well, I think, yes.
We actually just are about to implement a security awareness program that is going to be required to be done yearly, and it'll track what users have done it, which ones have not, and how they scored on it. So that's how we're going to start enforcing a little better security.
See, that's really good. We, you know, smaller places, we don't have anything like that. We need to have something like that. But, you know, everybody has like sexual harassment training every year.
Yes.
We put it in place.
Security.
Yeah.
Now we're getting where I want
Well,
to
and
talk.
even if you have people who agree, like in the orientation class and so on, they agree. They're like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to click on those things. But then you get in the real world where they get the email, and maybe there's a funny video on the other side of the URL. They click it anyway, even though they know they're not supposed to. That doesn't stop them from doing it.
Yes.
So just because they know and you train them and they understand, doesn't mean that they will listen when the time comes.
Yes.
And I know I can get late in this, and I apologize.
No, you're fine.
From the town of Nate, it's a very small town, it's 3,600 people, less than 60 employees. And I can actually transplant it from California.
Welcome.
And trying to instill any form of security on this organization has been an absolute nightmare. I don't get buy-in from the county manager. I don't get buy-in from the 79-year-old mayor
Absolutely.
that has been mayor forever. And the things that you guys are talking about, I'd love to have those problems because I can't do password requirements, password aging. When I walked in, there was a spreadsheet with the usernames and passwords. And
Yes.
this is the second
Yes.
time in my career. But the first day that I did was I we go down there with that list, and I ripped it up, and I said, I will not be responsible for using, or keeping, or knowing anybody's salary. That's gonna have to be their problem. We can negotiate other things, but I won't negotiate this. And I go, oh, by the way, sometimes we are gonna move towards explain all the normal things that you do for a highly connected organization.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna hold off on those. And it's been a year and 7 months, and I still can't pass that ground. And I did actually during that last year at this conference, and I would really love to see something from you guys come out and not only talk about the more advanced issues, but the very basic ideas of network security and also why they are important. Because I get the opinion, we're amazing. Who's going to do that to us? And yet we are not the smallest, I mean, our budget is not the smallest in Chicago County.
Yes.
We are a much larger budget than a lot of the communities
Yes.
around us simply because of the application, revenue that affords us.
Absolutely.
But it's just, it's so small. And it's a credibility issue with me, and I understand it. You come from California, maybe you guys are more technically worried about stuff like that out there. It's different here, we're a small town. It's just like, no, you are more important than this, but I just can't get that.
So you need to explain to them that it's a Microsoft requirement.
Oh, well, you know what I'm
They're no
doing? I'm
longer gonna
slowly
support it if
pushing,
they don't start using
I'm
passwords.
slowly pushing Active Directory further and further in, moving up every, locally, every machine has its own, there's no backup. So I'm slowly putting that in, and
Every IT
I
department.
have to do it, you guys have to move to network account so that we can push software. We have to move to network account, so we have to do it so you don't have to have another password. So I'm doing it that way, but I still haven't turned on password. I still don't have complex passwords. So,
Unfortunately, we take it.
but then, like he said, who they can appoint at?
Well, we had some last weekend where last Thursday, and so I've always said the sheriff's department, so we're down.
You just got that last week.
Last week also, must have been a thing around.
Is that the one
All she
sending
did was
you
go
a
to
CD from
Pizza Hut
internship?
website.
I don't know what it was, but our son was, it's a contract.
You like your people's roads up, like, no?
It's not a good thing, but
But no,
that's what it's taken, and our organization is so.
That's what's wrong with that.
Yep.
It seems to be everything like that, but they had an old outdated server, it was the only server, it did their finance, it did everything that the town did was on this one server, it was out of warranty. And the first day I walked in, it had a grade 5 grade set with one dead drive. No one knows how long it was that way. It's just like, no back out, I hate getting it used. And so I wanted to hold it down. The first July is still one of those. So this year, if you get this on it, you come offline. So to build out, expand the drives. And they said, well, we can't be like this. And I said, well, when I gave you this proposal, I made 60% redundant, we moved all the machines to another host, none of work, and you guys wouldn't know. I didn't. So this year, I'm doing that. But it's like painful that way.
Yes.
And I don't want to do a data breach, or even worse, I don't want to go through ransomware. And it's funny, the organization I left in California, this year has been through 2 incidents of ransomware.
Wow.
And I don't want anything. I just wish I could make them understand before we get there.
So I think one of the keys I'm hearing most of you say is that there needs to be some upper level management buy-in to helping you with the culture.
Well, that's where the money comes from.
And what do? Do you give them a bunch of real world scenarios of even a town that size, what could happen, so you scare them into agreeing?
I don't think you can scare.
No, they're not doing habits.
Yeah, I don't think you can per se scare them. You know, we talk about this in class. We talk about trying this, the ability to sell, and really finding out what are the interests of the senior group. So once you can figure out what the interest of the senior group is, and it's been my experience, I would say 7 out of 10 times, technology is not one of those things that they are very interested in. They just want it to work, fund it at the level that I can just get it to work, and then that's, as far as I want to go. You have some that will, go above and beyond, but those are sort of outliers, if you will. It's been my experience, especially in the state of North Carolina, that we've been mostly, let's make sure it works. And now we're starting to see a little bit more of the curve where, they want to be a little bit more innovative, but it depends on what their interests are. Security is one of those things where it's almost like life insurance.
Yeah, it is.
It's just,
exactly.
you have to die to get the policy, basically, which is probably a bad example of, what I'm trying to communicate.
It's like a door lock. If no one's kicked it in, then it must be working.
Yes, yes. And so it doesn't really resonate with them until something, and then unfortunately at that particular point in time, your culture is so one way that it's hard to make the shift to a culture of security where we actually are thinking about our passwords and we're not opening email attachments and we don't have the password underneath the keyboard or, for God's sake, post it right on the monitor screen. The password's right here.
But we're not there, the people that make the decisions, we're not their peers. A lot of times peer pressure to get this stuff done, but the organizations for the county managers and the city managers, that's where this needs to be done. It's going to trickle down. Because we can go tell our managers this and they're going to ignore us.
So I'm making some mental notes here because I think there might be something that the group NCLGISA, especially after bringing Kevin Mitnick in, there may be something that the group could do to kind of help spearhead a change in culture as it relates to security. So I think there's an opportunity there to help organizations become more active as it relates to being aware of security. Maybe even, just having 3 or 4 minute video clips that you can play on a periodic basis within your organization about security.
One thing I found that's been really effective in my organization is not every month, but I try to do it at least once a quarter. I'll send out whatever's going on online, mostly at that point in time, if it's ransomware, if it's email phishing, if it's, especially like during the holiday season, I'll send out annual reminders. You probably didn't get some spamware from USPS, FedEx asking you to validate a purchase or a tracking order. It's all BS, don't click on it. And then I also do like top 10 lists for home security and free security tools. So it's not, I'm not sitting there on a cliff screaming at my end users. So I'm kind of gently saying, hey, this is something that is important here at work. And by the way, here's some free shit you can do at home that will also make your home life more secure. And overwhelmingly, the response has been really positive. Just been really gracious and they appreciate it. Even if it's just sending like Norton Power Eraser.
And I'll tell you that really has powerful impacts because what happens when they go into Best Buy or all these other places, they get that information from the salesperson or the Geek Squad person. And usually, if you can provide that same sort of information, it changes how they view your department. It's getting into a bigger kind of conversation. But it does change the image of the IT department as being like this big brother watching me, want to control me kind of thing, versus I'm giving you information now to safeguard your information, not only at work, but at your home. So it changes the conversations a little bit, and that helps with creating this culture of whatever, security, awareness, right? It's not a training per se, but it does help. Now, if you come back on top of that with some training and some hands-on activities, that will start to then have an impact within the organization, I believe. I have not seen it done yet, but it'll be a great case study to write up.
I think that's a good idea, like the city's doing it at least once a quarter, and then it's not just forgotten either. Like he was saying, guys that have been there 15 years, they totally forgot what they signed and when whatever class they took. But this is just a gentle nudge, so it's not just lying dormant. I think we ought to bring back the DRIP program. I love that thing.
Yeah.
Would just knock the letters off your Word document. Now, that scares people, but it didn't hurt anything.
Right.
But,
That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, I think the point about the home and your personal devices, because you got vendors in there, promoting Citrix,
Yes,
BYD,
yes.
posted solutions, all that. That's all being done on people's home systems. They want access to the network.
They want to bring it to your
Yeah, so,
network.
I mean, you gotta,
You've got to have those
Gotta pass that on.
conversations. Yes, you got to have that conversation.
I agree with that. If you catch the interest about what they can do to save themselves at home, and they start operating correctly at home, they'll continue operating correctly at work. But on the other hand, like when he was saying that his manager said, that's not going to happen in the town our size, so we don't need to worry about that. I think that same thing. So I mean, how do you get around that? How do you say it could happen? How do you sell that?
I actually think the smaller places are prime targets because,
Because they have it planned.
Right.
They would have that small-minded thinking
yes,
and
yeah,
lack of self-value, really.
yeah.
I mean,
You just kind of go in and drop something in and you can just have home base. What's the town you're from? Maiden, yeah. Maiden would be my place where I'm doing all my spoofing and all this other stuff. And probably you probably have a decent internet connection.
Zip codes, hackers go by IP addresses.
500 megabit, synchronous.
Large
There you go.
swaths of IP pressure testing.
It's crazy.
It's not a,
I'm sorry.
I just said, hackers don't go by zip codes, they go by IP addresses. And, you know, they're gonna put in a range that's gonna cover half of southeast North Carolina.
Yes,
And if you've got a system.
Yeah, I don't think off on our IDS system. I mean, I've seen alarms, you know, so I know people are probing.
I like that idea of the four lines, because I think like this
Yes.
one lady, she admitted that she saw some pop-ups on Thursday, that she was, I guess, scared to call the help desk, she didn't want to turn herself in. Well, after she came in on Monday and learned about all what happened over the weekend, sure enough, some people were checked the computer, and that's where that was the node that was identified. And, you know, had we had maybe a more comfort level or put something out there, maybe she would have called us Thursday.
yes.
And called the computer,
Yes.
or attached to a share, so.
And I think your customers and clients will appreciate, these little updates or these lunch and learns, if you will. If you even, I know one of the things we do at the School of Government, we have these things called lunch and learns, where we will discuss different types of teaching strategies. And it's a way that we come in, it's kind of a culture of, we are all going to share how we teach, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our clients, our customers are getting the best information and that you're engaged in a way that's meaningful. So that when you leave the School of Government, you all have a positive experience. So we have that. So if we have those sorts of things in the tech world, whether it's BYOD, whether it's security, maybe it's your ERP system, maybe it's just how do you buy a computer or an iPad or a Surface. It would change the view or the perception of your IT department. And I think it would help you in the culture space around security. I got Joe first.
So a couple things.
He's been doing
A couple
like this.
things to tie it to there, Maurice. Yeah, I like the idea about to be advised, because we send out to be advised of notifications,
Yes.
things like that. And on the annual basis, we're trying to implement something like I think Adam had mentioned earlier about with the Dell SecureWorks, and just that notification, getting them thinking about the security side of it. And we don't have an official policy yet, once we haven't implemented this, but having that continual every so often in your face of keeping it in your head and keeping it, current. But on top of that, you mentioned that about the CPT. So since the CPT has all of these other divisions of the counties that they, touch, especially from the management side of it, I mean, y'all thought about kind of putting a plug in there for, anytime you get the county managers, city managers, or the lawyers, or whoever up there, some type of little security,
Yeah.
quick 10-minute thing or something.
So yes, to answer your question, yes, we are thinking about that. And the only group thus far that I've been able to touch with security was the Register of Deeds. And I'm gonna tell you, it was fascinating, because what I learned in that particular session was I learned that one county, she had never changed her password the entire time she had been there. And she had been there almost 12 years. She had never changed her password. She had the same, Huh?
She never forgot.
Right, right. She never changed her password. She never changed her password. A lot of them said that they had passwords where they were like their child's name, 123, or Kevin 123, or Maurice 123. So it was really interesting, and so we were going through having this discussion about why it's important that you would want to protect and safeguard those things, and started to show them examples. They were like, how come our IT department doesn't tell us this? I said, well, I'm sure that they are. What I have noticed is that you tune the IT department out for whatever reason. Because when something comes from IT, it's usually
Yeah, that don't relate to
bad.
that. Yeah.
Right? It's
I
usually,
think we sit around and do nothing all day.
well, I think they think technology leaders speak a different language. Yes, we speak a different language, and so they just can't understand. They don't even try to really hear what you're saying. So
She hit on something too, because it's a matter of blame, I think. Like she said, she saw the pop-up, and it was what, 2 days later before they would decide to say anything. What's the first thing they say when you go to their computer? Oh, I wasn't even in the country for the last week. I haven't touched it. I've been doing this paperwork over here.
it just
You
didn't.
know,
It
but
couldn't
they're
have been
afraid
me.
that it's going to be their fault.
Yes, yes.
And how do you make them realize at least we're just trying to fix these holes or fix the problem? We're not trying to get you in trouble.
Yes, absolutely.
I must admit, one of the first things I do is thank them for calling.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, rather than make them feel badly, at least I got on it as quickly as possible.
You should make them feel horrible. I can't believe you opened that attachment.
Yeah.
I sent you all these warnings. How could you do that?
Yeah.
But
Permanent mistake right there.
But one other thing, I know on the NCLGISA website, under the documents, there are a lot of documents, but it would be nice, especially for small organizations, to, as y'all are going through doing some of these trainings, if you can kind of put some of them up there that we could utilize and turn into end-user type training would be great.
Absolutely.
I'd like to ask a dumb question.
No questions, though.
Like I have an idea of some things, but like Maiden or Mooresville, if they are breached, what all can a hacker get? And I have answers, but I don't want to cloud. I want to hear what can be gotten if
It
that happens.
depends on the services you offer. If you offer
Right.
water and sewer, you've got financial information. It just depends on what you offer.
If you're doing tax.
So
We don't have
it's
to-
restricted to identity fraud
But then you have a bunch of
and
personal
stolen
information.
money of the citizens. But also you've got your personnel information, right? So social security numbers, so that also they could get those guys stuff. I know we've got GIS maps of the water system that is not allowed out.
Yep.
I mean, I guess they could get to that, and that could potentially be a terrorist thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, but I mean, is there anything other than those
A
three
lot of
things?
agencies, they want to put all that stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we're trying to put all our stuff out there, water lines, sewer lines, plants, I mean, it's a whole different shift, like, it's open data, that's a big
Yes.
push.
Yes, yes, because
Well, then you need to read the Department of Homeland Security's requirements on what public
Yes.
infrastructure you can put online. There are regulations around that.
What can?
Well, that would be good, that's,
I would recommend you look into that, because they say you're gonna put your entire water and sewer system online.
Yep.
That is against the law.
Yep.
What other kind of things could be gotten? Or I mean, that's enough, right?
Yes.
Is that it?
So I can tell you what happened at UNC. So we had a faculty member get a grant. And the grant was they were going to do breast cancer research. So in the grant, they got a server. They put the server in their office, under their desk. And I'm not sure if IT was notified. It seemed to be that IT was notified and IT knew about it, but IT was not maintaining the server. If that makes any sense. The server had its own IP address, and then the server became compromised, and what was lost was like 12,000 social security numbers. So, it was a huge, so if you think about research that's supposed to be confidential, You have to go through an IRB process, which is the internal review board, saying that we're going to protect these things. We have this thing that's going to do it, and we'll, and you get people to sign off. They agree to it because of these terms, and so when it's violated, you broke a contract, so you can be sued by these 12,000 individuals. So what ended up happening?
It's a trickle thing too, because
Yes.
you can't just look at one thing, because like Kevin was talking about, oh, well, I need that piece of information, let me go get that, and it's all pieces together that can create a huge problem.
Absolutely. So what ended up happening in this particular case, IT did not get in trouble, interestingly enough. The faculty member was demoted, which is almost hard to do, but really they lost their rank and pretty much was forced out. But more importantly, the reputation of that research department was compromised, because now you're saying that I can come to UNC Healthcare or UNC Research and get this done, but then I have the risk of my information being compromised. So that was probably the bigger, piece of that. But it was interesting that IT was not necessarily involved. They knew about the server, or that they knew of the server, but it was not something that they were allowed to manage, because the researcher.
But you've got to, I don't have a clean way to phrase it, and I can empathize with their IT folks, because I'm in higher ed also. You've got the bastardization of higher ed, where academic freedom, to some degree, rules.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I didn't have a footprint. I couldn't get a foothold in it until the state CIO's office rolled in and said that community colleges had to adhere to the North Carolina state security standards. That's when I was able to actually start to get a foothold to put security in place. And then we managed to work with the state CIO's office and back off of it some. But I mean, I don't know where the counties and cities and stuff like that fall in to place. But I mean, if you try to adhere to the state CIO standards, they're nuts. I mean, you're looking multiple full-time positions just to read the damn manual.
Yes.
Yeah, almost every place has to meet CJIS requirements for have a police department. We all have police departments of some kind. And we all have HIPAA requirements for HR.
The biggest help for us, we had our just technology audit a couple of years ago.
Yes.
We had a security contractor come in, and we went through every piece of policy.
Yes.
And we identified what policies we didn't have, what policies we did have,
Yep.
where we had issues, so that we corrected all those things
Yes.
ahead of that audit. I mean, that helped us. And then you got PCI.
Well, it's the same.
And PCI is pretty decent.
If you take credit cards,
Yeah.
you have to follow PCI, and PCI is pretty much good enough security for your whole organization.
And they just came out with some new standards.
And the new one, and we just went through the new one, is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it is.
And it includes continuous education for your
Yes, it does.
users.
Yes.
And
So that may be the end to how you start to create an awareness.
And if you
Big
use
awareness.
the credit card payment processor under the state contract, there's a memorandum from the Office of the State Controller that requires you to follow PCI standards.
Well, you know what's really funny about that is I tried to use that as my hammer to implement security. And our credit card transaction provider charges us a fee if we aren't PCI compliant.
That they'd rather pay the fee.
And I brought this and I go, number one, if I'm filling out this PCI report, I'm not budgeting. If
Yes.
I'm gonna say if we're
Yes.
deficient, and I go, so we are. And I go, he goes, well, what's the impact? And I go, it's about $50 a month. I have the finance director in here. And they go, well, what's it gonna take to implement this? And I started outlining the whole security policy.
So that
And after
would
about 10 minutes, he glazed over and he said, let's just pay that. And I go, well, every month when I get that report, I am going to report that we aren't compliant.
Right.
And I'm gonna send you a copy and remind you.
Right.
So yeah, I do that. Every month I get it. You aren't meeting requirements, forward it,
Are they aware of what the penalties are if you actually have a data loss though? Because, yeah, you pay a monthly fine for not being compliant, but it's the penalty.
I did tell them their penalties, I did not lay out.
Oh, you need to lay out the penalties.
It's like
because
multi-million-dollar
they can get
consequences.
frustrating.
$5,000 per card.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on your transaction level. It gets to be a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's up to $5,000 per card,
Per identity.
Per payment type?
per credit card number. I didn't see any.
Yeah, but it's also, what, if you, I mean, if you were a large organization, you take, I forget the number of credit card transactions per year. It's $1 million per payment type.
Yeah.
But to be
So if you take 3 different kinds of credit cards, that's a $3 million fine.
Yes.
You can also, if it's a blatant disregard for security, they can withdraw your ability to take credit cards for like a year.
Which I think you're.
Which, in like my
So
industry, would
is that only
criminalize.
required of transactions that are stored on your network or that pass through your network?
Oh, pass on, no, it's, if you take any credit card payment at all, even if you use,
It doesn't have to have
even
storage
if you use
requirements.
old swipe machines, you still have to follow PCI at some
I
level.
mean, I have to say, I mean, we take credit cards through the bank credit card processing system. So we don't store any information. We go through PCI training as far as don't write it down, don't, track it. And they do PCI compliance testing quarterly. But, I mean, it
There's a lot
sounds
more
like
to it
we're.
than that.
we're
Well,
way
I recommend
off.
you get a qualified security analyst from PCI and you run through an audit, and you'll be amazed at the requirements
That's
you
the
have to
thing,
meet.
you guys have got to be filling out a SAQ, whether it's
Yep.
A through
Yeah.
B, you're filling
Yeah.
that out, which means you have a merchant account ID number.
Yep.
The bigger issue, and I haven't mentioned yet, I harp on PCI, I've scared the hell out of quite a few people here. The CIO should never be the final signature authority on the PCI document.
Well, it's
You-
not, because according to the standard, it's supposed to be your financial
It is
officer.
supposed to be the CFO, so it should be coming to you anyway.
I mean, I fill it out,
She's the one that
and
kinda
I
dumped
type
it
in
on
my
me.
Right,
my
I mean, but you
financial
should-
director's
go
name, and
back
I
and
let
read
them know,
this.
I'm signing your name again.
It is the
your name on the
CFO
line.
that's supposed to be doing that, or it may not be CFO, it may be the chief business officer.
Right.
But not
It's
IT.
one of the two.
No, it is not IT's
It
responsibility.
is,
to
it is
sign
not,
that
it has,
document.
it is a business it doesn't make a damn to IT if you take the credit cards or not.
Yeah.
They can break out the pennies and roll them up and bring them in, the money gets processed the same way. It is a business convenience.
PCI is the club to beat your organization in the line for security.
I thought that I had, and I got that whipped out response. And
Yeah.
But
it's-
you need to make them aware what the penalties are if you have a breach.
As soon as your CFO puts their name on that one, and pull some of the data breach. I mean, pull some of these $500,000 reports, show that a breach costs on average about, I think it's $60 a name. People get real scared real quick.
Look at what South Carolina is doing.
You know what I think the problem with shooting is, it's somebody local to come in, a good old boy to come in and tell.
Well, that is a lot of it. I'm from California.
Yeah,
Even
that's
though
where
you're a
the
California
problem is.
guy. And even though, I've gotten credibility on IT systems per se, requirements and those kind of things, it's different here. I got the same thing about electronic documents, and document management. Well, we have to have paper. The state of North Carolina requires us to have paper, and it's just like, that doesn't sound right to me.
Get somebody to move that group rather than that.
Well, on the other hand,
It's actually true for the Department of Environmental Protection.
on the other hand, it might, don't feel bad about the California, because we've got a local Mooresville guy pushing electronic documentation, and they're not following through with it, so. That is just, in the town that we work for, a local guy is pushing that, and they're not necessarily
They're not
any better than they are from somebody from California, so don't feel bad.
Good morning.
So I'm going to stop here because I know we've got Kevin over there, so if you, those who want to at least meet him and take pictures or ask questions, you have time to do that. But what I will do from this particular session is begin to, and I'll talk to Shannon a little bit more about this, but how can we at least create a how-to startup guide. A lot of this, I think we've kind of hit on it in our discussion. One, quarterly something to your users, awareness training is
How about, you know, we have these regional meetings.
Yes,
That wouldn't be a good bad place for us to actually bring in maybe our
Yes.
financial officers or our city managers.
absolutely, absolutely. That's a great idea. So I definitely will make mention of that too as well, so we can try to incorporate some of that. We probably do that on multiple sides of the state, to do that, so I will definitely make mention of that. And then, just know that anytime you're trying to change culture, it is going to take time. It may even be just as simple as making sure that everybody changes their passwords every 30 to 45 days. Notice I didn't say 90 days, I said 30 to 45 days. And that right there will be like a small win in the grand scheme of things. But we'll put some stuff together and we'll be getting back with you guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your discussion. It was an awesome discussion. So,
Thank you.
yes, go see Kevin.